let's do a chatty get ready with me. I'm going to be answering some of your questions about the collaboration between me and Clionadh, the Light Scatters collection. I'm going to be putting on a full face of makeup. I'm also going to be using my little BYOP palette. I put in the formats from their newest quads, and I think they go really, really well with the Light Scatters palette for sure. And I think this is such a cute little color story, and I can switch out some of the other shimmers, and I love that they came out with those quads. So let's get right into it. I usually do my eyes first, but if I'm filming, I tend to just do my base so I can do the eyes and then I can film. So I'm going to use my little BYOP palette, and I'm kind of thinking I'm going to do this one on the inner half, this one on the outer half, and then I'm kind of torn between, I think I want to use this one on the center maybe. I'm not going to talk about any of the products. I don't want to keep interjecting and then forgetting where I left off. So they will all be listed in the description box. I promise. I know I'm not the best, but it takes a long time between editing and then uploading and then doing the thumbnail and then listing all the things. So getting into the questions. So the first two questions were kind of about how the collaboration started. So when did this process start? I'm curious how long it took to develop. And then another similar one was, did Clionadh reach out to you or did you reach out to them about a collab? They did reach out to me. They reached out to me towards the end of 2020. And then I kind of started thinking about what I maybe wanted to do, maybe just what would be the product or products, the main things that I wanted to do work on. And we didn't really give ourselves like a specific timeline on when this had to be completed. It was pretty fluid. And then in the fall of 2021 is I think when we got started. So we signed a contract and we started talking about what the products could be for the collaboration. There was no parameters. I wasn't given any restrictions, like it has to be a palette, it has to be single eyeshadows, it has to be X, Y, and Z. But I knew I wanted to do an all shimmer eyeshadow palette, and I knew I wanted them to be smaller pan sizes so that the cost would be lower. And I just wanted to be like a really cute little 9-pan eyeshadow palette with all specialty shimmer shadows that you can just pair with all your favorite mattes from different palettes. So I knew for sure that was going to be part of the collection. And then I did really want to do brushes as well. And then we also talked about doing the eyeshadow primer, and we knew we wanted this to be a custom formulation. So that definitely took a bit. There is for sure quite a bit of a process when it comes to creating something from scratch. Of course, I had to test it out. They had to test it out. We made tweaks to it, and all the pieces were kind of happening all at the same time. So as we were waiting for things, I was getting samples of some shadows. As for the theme, I actually originally had wanted to do Afterglow, but I don't think that would have been that unique. So I wanted something that had to do with light for sure. So I just started Googling like kind of different things in terms of lighting and how light works, etc. And that's how I came up with light scatters. Technically, the proper scientific term is light scattering, not light scatters. So I did edit it to just make it a little bit more kind of like this is going to be like a collection that is themed versus like light scattering wouldn't have really made sense for the palette name, I think. So light scatters does. And I think that's really when it started to take off, and I think that's when kind of the whole vision came together. Once I had the theme, I knew I wanted all the shades in the palette to just be very colorful because I wanted them to represent just the spectrum, the wavelength of all the colors in light. And so then the focus was on getting together all the different shades, and I got to choose which formulas I wanted. And of course, I love Clionahd's formula. I love that they have a couple of different textures, but for my palette, I did predominantly want to go with a smoother texture, especially with the Shine On Shimmer Shadow Enhancer. And I did do the graphic for this, and I also did the graphic for the packaging. And then we contacted my former coworker who I knew was going to be perfect for creating the artwork on here. So, oh my god. He did an amazing job, and then I did the rest of the design on the actual like die line here. I haven't done a get ready with me in so long, so I feel like I'm just over here really talking, and I just need to really get through putting on actual makeups. So that was kind of the process that we went through, and the nail polishes were actually not originally something in the plan, in the works, but I love their nail polishes because I think they launched them after we kind of started the collab, and I completely fell in love with them. And I love that they have the minis. And so we were like, let's do some mini nail polishes of some of the shades. So then I chose which shades I wanted to make into nail polishes, and I tried those out. And that was really fun, but definitely hard to narrow down because, I mean, I love all the shades. One of the questions was, what is my favorite shade from the palette? Oh, that is that's a very difficult question to answer. I'm gonna do top 3, but of course this yellow with the violet blue reflect. I love this one so much. And then I think the next shade is for sure the topper shadow right here. It just looks white, but this one is just so ethereal and sparkly and beautiful. And then also this one right here because it's so grungy. I love it so much. Another great question was inspiration behind each shade, sister shades for each one. So the shades were really chosen. Like I said, I knew I wanted like a reddish one, I wanted a pink one, I wanted a green, I wanted purple, I wanted all the different colors just kind of dispersed throughout the way they look kind of straight on, and then the way that they shift. So you have all the colors of a prism essentially. And I did also want them to be kind of different levels of opacities. I wanted some of them to be a little bit more topper-like. I wanted specifically that more iridescent topper shade to be more of a topper so you can top it over some of the other shades and kind of transform, which was kind of the original idea I had behind this palette. And then I think it kind of transformed as I realized what I wanted. I'm doing a horrible job. As I really started to get into just the concept itself, I've seen a few people mention that they wish there were names, and it's kind of one of those things because I intended for them to have names, but then I kind of wanted just the eyeshadow palette inside to not have names, because personally, when I'm making BYOPs, I have to get over the fact that the shades don't actually match the theme, and I feel like it might look confusing if you're looking at a random BYOP from someone on something like Instagram and you're not really familiar with that concept and you're just like, oh, this shade is called blah, 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 but it's really not. So I didn't want to do shade names for that reason. And I really wanted everyone to reorder these in the palette however they wanted. This is just kind of the way that it was built from the beginning. As we were adding more shades, we were kind of putting them in these slots inside of the 9 pans. But I wanted everyone to kind of put them where they wanted. And if you have any of the, I think they're like the really, really mini palettes from Viseart, those pans fit. They're a little bit of a tighter fit, but you could also put these shimmer shadows into those pans because they're magnetic. So I was like, oh, maybe if people have those, they can also do BYOPs. And then of course now Clionadh came out with those mini quads with mattes, which I had no idea about. So that was really amazing. So now if you get those quads, you can also do a little BYOP with these mini pans. And then of course the Dragon Fruit collection also has these smaller pans. And I love them because it's just like the right amount of product where it doesn't feel like you have so much and it feels special. So getting into the shade names, I didn't necessarily pick which one would be called which. I did just write down some shade names that I knew I liked and they were really on theme. So I have 10 here. The last one is kind of like an optional one. So I'm just gonna kind of name them off and just kind of talk about why I like those. I mean, again, they all have to do with kind of light scatters, the effect of light. So I have Refract, which makes, I feel like that one really makes so much sense. I think that one I would have named maybe the first shade. I'm just gonna assign them, might as well. And then I also have Diffraction, which that one actually I think would be great for the first shade option name as well. So it's really hard because I'm not sure between this one. I'm gonna just go through all of them and then I'll see which ones. Then I have written down Wavelength, Transmit, Prism, Spectrum, Photon, Polarization, and Frequency. And again, they're all related. They're all very scientific-y. And then the 10th name is Beam. But I don't know if that one necessarily really is something I really loved for this one. So it's just kind of like an additional name in there. But I don't know what I would name all of them. I would love to hear your take on which shades you would name which one. And I will list the names in the description so you can let me know. I'm really curious before I get into what I think I would name them. They were not really based off of the names, so I don't think they're gonna fully really like match the names. And I'm just gonna finish off the lower lash line, but I do need to grab a un-BYOP'd palette so I can talk about the different shades. So I'm just connecting the orange underneath my lower lash line. And I think I'm gonna leave it like that. Actually, maybe I'll go in with the green. I'm gonna go in with the green. And I'm gonna use just a little bit of the Shine On Shimmer Shadow Enhancer. I've been so excited to hear so many people have been really enjoying this primer. It did sell out, and it is back in stock now. And I've been just using it non-stop as well. And it's just nice to have something that I know is going to work and have the longevity. So here's a brand spanking new palette. So Refract, I think, or Diffraction. I think this one to Refract, and then this one because it has hollow, I think that one Diffraction. As for wavelength, I'm thinking this one because it is just so shifty. There's so many different colors in that one, and I think that one really makes sense. And then Transmit, okay, let me go through some of the other ones. Prism, I think maybe this one Prism because it is so, for Prism, I think this green one because it is holographic. So I think that one makes sense with all the different colors. And then Spectrum, I'm kind of thinking for Spectrum, maybe this one up here. And then Frequency for this one. And then Photon. I feel like this one might be a fun one for Photon, maybe. And then, okay, there was one more. So that leaves Transmit to be this last shade in the bottom center. So I'm really curious to hear your thoughts, as someone mentioned. And then there were two questions. Any shades that didn't make the palette, but you're secretly obsessed with? Is there a shade that almost made it in, but didn't? If so, what did it look like? So for the most part, we did have these pretty planned out. However, there was kind of I was really stuck between the pinks, because like I said, I knew I wanted a pink in there, and they gave me so many beautiful options, and I was just not sure what I wanted to do for the pink because they were so beautiful. So I'm going to insert a swatch of kind of some of the other pink shades that I was really torn between. One of them was just a little bit too greenish straight on, and I wanted a much more like dedicated green, which is the one in the bottom left corner. And then the other ones were just a little bit more baby pink, and I wanted something a little bit brighter, which is why I chose the one in the bottom right corner. This one's definitely much more truer pink. And then there's of course a little bit of pinkiness going on with this shade right here, which this one is like kind of leaning a little bit purple, so it kind of bridges a bunch of the different shades in the palette. Thank you so much to everyone who participated. I'm just gonna finish off this lip with, I think I want to top a little bit of this green shade just ever so slightly over this lip, which is why I chose the lip clay. I just feel like it might be kind of interesting. We'll see. Oh, okay, that was a little, too much. It's kind of mixing in. Ooh, that's actually really fun. I feel like it looks kind of like there's an insect that has this color. I don't know which one, but apparently I've seen an insect that's orange with green. Multi-chrome all over it. I had so much fun working on this collection with Clionadh. They've been an absolute pleasure to work with. I love bouncing ideas off of them. I love getting their thoughts. It was really truly a collaboration, and they also let me just have so much free reign, and they really entrusted me, and I appreciate them so much. They're very consistent with their quality, and they really stand behind their quality, and that's what I've always loved about them. And it's been amazing to watch them grow since the very first launch that they did with the stained glass collection. That was the first time I tried Clionadh, and that's where my love for them started. And I also really appreciate that they do genuinely like that I do comparison swatches. They've told me how helpful it is to people, and they actually do their own swatch comparisons with their launches on their YouTube channel. They do of course only compare shadows from their brand. How many brands do you know that do that? And I think that reflects the confidence they have behind their products. Thank you so much for your comments, your DMs, and tagging me and the looks that you've been creating with the Light Scatters palette. It has been so amazing to watch everyone just be creative and seeing the different looks that people create and the different pairings they do. And if you want to see more details on the collection, just the reveal, I also did comparison swatches. I've done a bunch of different looks, and those videos will be up on the screen as well as in the Light Scatters playlist. So thank you so much for being here. I hope to see you next time.